So Merry Christmas once again. Woo, there we go. So, what is the deal with Jesus? What is so great about Jesus' birth? What is it about Jesus that makes Christmas worth celebrating 2,000 plus years after his birth? What liberation does Jesus bring? I don't mean to be rude, not on his birthday, but Jesus does remarkably little in the story of his birth. Mary is the one doing pretty much all of the work. Joseph is standing by as a dutiful spouse and parent, though. The angels announce the news of Jesus' birth, and the shepherds do a lot of running and singing as they go tell it on the mountain, but Jesus is just lying away in a manger. And while the hymns claim that Jesus didn't even cry, anyone who has spent time around newborns knows that it was not a silent night. So I ask again, what good and liberating news is there to be found in a baby that is born, sleeps in a manger, and occasionally cries? Now, I don't want to be needlessly contrarian, so let me spell out my agenda plain. I am deeply concerned with Christmas becoming a celebration of the status quo. I love believing that a change comes over us at Christmas time, that we all remember how to be more compassionate, more caring, more attentive to our neighbors, more loving to those close to us, more just to the least of these. I love believing that Christmas changes us, but the track record of Christmas fails to provide sufficient evidence for that belief. We're celebrating the second Christmas while American-made bombs fall over Bethlehem. We're celebrating the fifth Christmas since the beginning of a global pandemic that has claimed somewhere between 7 to 33 million lives worldwide, shows no sign of stopping. We're celebrating Christmas, and no significant change has been made to prevent the terrifying increase of global temperatures that threatens the future of human life on this planet. So if Christmas, or celebrating Christmas, is supposed to bring some sort of change, then it's not doing a good enough job. We must either acknowledge that there's a problem with Christmas or our way of celebrating it. Otherwise, the celebration of Christmas is just the celebration of status quo. And so I ask a third time, what good and liberating news is there to be found in the birth of Jesus? Something that transforms us. To answer this question, I have 3 stories of awareness. The first is one you might be familiar with. Roughly 2,024 years ago, a young woman named Mary received a visit from God's messenger, Gabriel, who told her that she was pregnant with a child who was God. Now, this didn't strictly need to happen. Mary would have realized that she was pregnant eventually, and it seems that she would have been a good enough parent to Jesus, but Gabriel directed her awareness toward the truth that her child was God and the fulfillment of every promise of love that God had ever made to humans. And Mary's response to this invitation to give her attention to her child was to sing a song of liberation, of a full revolution of the status quo, where the oppressive systems and their perpetrators were destroyed and the lowly were lifted up because God was fully and truly with them in the form of a child. And Mary and Joseph continued to give their awareness to their child throughout the whole birthing process and beyond. Until we too receive this invitation into awareness given to us by Gabriel, Mary, and Joseph, until we can see and hear and belong to the liberation that a newborn offers to the world, our Christmas celebrations will only be ones of conformity. A second story of awareness that you do not know because it is mine. I had graduated from high school and was packing up for college, still a child, but ready to become an adult and leave every element of my childhood far behind, including my friends. Until one night, around midnight, I got a call from my friend Scott. Scott was a piece of work. We all have that friend. He had played Jesus in our high school's production of Godspell, and I admired him. But he had also caused me no shortage of problems for as long as I had known him. Tonight was no different, as he called me and told me that he had run away from home because he was afraid of his parents. And he asked if he could stay with me and my family. I wanted to say no, but I decided to let my dad be the bad guy. So I went upstairs, I woke my dad up. He was very grumpy after that. And I told him that Scott was asking to stay with us. I didn't even get to tell my dad the situation before he leapt out of bed, grabbed his keys to go pick Scott up, and told me to prepare a place for him to sleep. My dad didn't see an inconvenience that night. He saw a child in need of awareness, and he gave it to Scott without question. Until we too receive this invitation into awareness given to us by Scott and my father, until we can see and hear and belong to the need of every child of God in this world, our Christmas celebrations will only be ones of conformity. A third story that you have already heard tonight. Shepherds are watching their flocks by night, doing their job, fulfilling the daily grind that they need to do to survive in a cruel world, when suddenly a messenger of God appears in the skies before them and declares that a child has been born who is God. And the angel invites them to leave their work, their duty to society, and give all of their awareness to this child who is God. And the shepherds, against all reason, they don't know who this child is, leave behind everything they have known to give all of their awareness to Jesus, a newborn child. And then they share that invitation with everyone who will listen to them, to drop whatever they're doing and give all of their attention to this child, Jesus, who is God with us. Until we too receive this invitation into awareness given to us by the angels and shepherds, until we can see and hear and belong to the liberation from duty and enter into the awareness of all children in the world who are God with us, our Christmas celebrations will only be ones of conformity. For it is no mistake that God enters the world in the form of a newborn. By being a baby, God rebels against the power structures that rely upon adults having more power than children. By being a baby, God is dependent. Jesus makes himself dependent on human beings, trusting poor working-class parents to raise him, trusting illiterate shepherds to spread the news of his arrival, trusting foreigners to provide the economic support needed to survive. By being a baby, God asks for awareness. God admits that even the creator of the universe cannot do the complicated work of life on their own. Throughout the Christmas story, the constant refrain is to give awareness, attention to Jesus, not because he's doing anything impressive, but because he is worthy of attention for who he is. Because any baby, any child, any testament to love and life is worthy of our full awareness. By being a baby, God reveals that we do not have to do anything to be worthy of all the awareness and love and attention and affection and change and transformation and presence and peace and joy that the world has to offer. There is nothing that Jesus, God with us, had to do or be worthy of to be worthy of awareness. To be worthy of the awareness that brings love into the world, that invites change to overcome us. And there is nothing that you have to do or be to be worthy of God's love, to be worthy of the love of another. So what is so liberating about Jesus, the baby? The liberation of Christmas is the message that there is nothing that any of us, children, adult, or newborn, must do to be worthy of the awareness that brings liberation and transformation into this world. There is nothing we must do to be worthy of the awareness that changes the course of the world from death to life. And so, I call for a children's theology of liberation to be born on this Christmas, as it was 2024-ish years ago, as it has been every Christmas since and is reborn every time a new child enters into this world. I call for a children's theology of liberation that sees God for the child they are, then that sees children for the God who they are, that recognizes that Christmas is God's declaration that all the work of love in this world was accomplished when God becomes human in the form of a baby. I call for a children's theology of liberation that asks adults to reconsider the virtues of adulthood. And remember that God's liberation came not through an active adult, but a very passive, actionless child that invites adults to give up their commitment to a status quo that privileges and prioritizes the work, the power, and the perspectives of adults over the imminent needs of children. I call for a children's theology of liberation that interrogates all the works adults have wrought in this world and ask which institutions serve the lives and hopes and dreams of children and which need to be swept away to give children, God with us, the chance to craft a world out of their hope and imagination rather than in negotiation with our fear, greed, and paranoia of power. This Christmas, will we respond to the angel's invitation to give up everything that we believe matters and give all of our attention to the child born among us amidst warfare and occupation and show them that they are worthy of our awareness, not because of what they do, but because they are a dearly loved child of God? Will we listen to and recover the children within ourselves, the presence of Jesus within us, who asks us to stop trying to be worthy of love and accept that we don't need to do anything to be worthy of everlasting love, and to know that all we need to do for liberation to arrive in this world is to see the presence of the baby Jesus in every child, newborn, and adult around us and treat them like we would treat Jesus, God with us, trusting us to love them with full dependence and hope. Because a change came at Christmas when the God who desired to live with us was born in the form of a baby, and instead of being ignored like far too many children are, was given attention from parents, angels, shepherds, and royalty. And a change can come this Christmas when we stop trying to prove ourselves as worthy adults and recognize that we are called to be the baby Jesus, filled with hope and trust and dependence and love, in need simply of awareness. And with a perspective, presence, and imagination that was designed to bring freedom to captives, wholeness and healing to the world, and love for all people. Christmas comes whenever we give awareness to the baby Jesus who is God with us and who is God in us, and who has placed every hope for liberation within us in the form of a child. Merry Christmas. May we stop celebrating the status quo and give awareness to the baby Jesus living in you and living in every child in need of your attention in this beautiful world that God has made. For love has come to change us all, free and unearned, tossing worth out the window. Love has come as common and as essential and as life-changing as a child. Love has come.